Hey, my dear friends, I am Professor Rajarathinam of Wales University, Chennai, reaching out to you on one specific topic that generally gets highly neglected. Even at this rarest of rare times, I will tell you what it is. This lockdown has been something phenomenal. No government at no other time in history ever resorted to this kind of extreme measure. And yet, the fear of COVID-19 only appears to have increased even more. Of course, everyone is advising us to rely on some simple precautionary measures, masking, hand washing, and social distancing. But no one is sure if these measures will give us 100% guarantee. People are also talking about the need for nutritious food and some preventive medicines. All this is fine. But there is one important component that should have been on focus right from the start. It can really change our personality, the kind of people we are. It has far more benefits than merely helping us to come out of COVID-19. Well, I'm talking about the daily dose of meditation. Quite a few people try it out for some time, soon they get discouraged and give it up. And my point is this: there are two important reasons why most people can't continue with their meditation. Number one, nobody has gone into it with a pure scientific attitude, and nobody has explained to the common people what really happens in their body if and when they take up the meditation. The latest research has come up with some highly interesting findings about the traditional forms of meditation. Of course, even such experimental attempts haven't gone into a full explanation. The other difficulty is about the form of meditation itself. Our highly active mind and the currently available forms of meditation seem to be in straight contradiction. I'll explain that also. So I am going to do two things to address these two difficulties. I'll explain to you the most significant research finding about the traditional forms of meditation, and I will introduce a new format called Recapture for Rapture, the R+R meditation. This is a format designed to tackle our proactive mind with the basic discoveries of evolutionary science. For both modules, however, I will be using just one little catchword: switching on and switching off. You will be surprised to know how so many important concepts on meditation can be explained using this little catchword alone. So let's switch on to the task without wasting much time. In a traditional module, the guru repeatedly tells you to switch off. Switch off your mind, please. That's not something talked of as your advantage. There is a lot of sense in it as well. The unchecked thought processes often lead you into trouble. The well-known daily anxiety, the concerns of the future, the calculations of business or salary. And as a clever bypass, the master gives you the new options to switch on. You are now called to focus your attention on either a simple breathing sensation or a well-known mantra, or it could be the mindfulness technique, the Buddhist model that invites you to watch the very ordinary things in life. The complicated mind processes are the villains in any case. So there is an element of switching off and an element of switching on. All of it is fine. But what's really happening in your body when you do this switching on and switching off? That's really the most important point to learn. It is this crucial mechanism that has been strongly confirmed by the research findings. And you know what it is? Well, when you undertake one of these traditional forms of meditation in a consistent manner, it can have some far-reaching benefits on the autonomic nervous system of your body. For anyone who wants to pursue meditation, this knowledge is an absolute must. It's only after appreciating this crucial link that we can move on to the R+R meditation. So let's begin. The crucial point of linkage between the traditional meditation and the autonomic nervous system. Long before we human beings practice meditation, trying to switch off the restless mind in order to focus the mental energy towards some specific sensations like breathing, nature had already engaged in very similar technique of shutting down one path of biological energy and directing it towards something else that is immediately required. This is what we find most wonderfully achieved in the autonomic nervous system. If you think of the regular activities of the wild animals and birds, one can actually divide them under two different categories. They had to move out of their secure environment, trying to look for their food, water, or at times a sexual partner. As you know, in the jungles and deserts, the conditions can be extremely harsh. They could fall a prey to other hunting animals, or they might meet with a competing member of their own species. Now they have to fight or flee away, and all the energy stored up in their body must immediately come into action. Once the conflict subsides and disappears, the animals can get back to their resting mode, and now the body building mechanisms and the energy accumulation processes can start all over again. These two continually repeating types of activities have been termed fight or flight mode and the rest or digest mode. Now the most interesting part is here. The autonomic nervous system that evolved in these long years of fierce struggles has brought out two completely different types of nerves. All animals and birds keep switching over from one mode to the other thanks to these nerves, and that certainly includes us, the human beings also. It's so stunning to find how this unconscious system has evolved to perfectly match with these two basic needs of all animals. It's actually the autonomic nervous system that controls and governs the core organs of the body, the heart, the lungs, the adrenal gland, and all the digestive parts, starting from the salivary glands right up to the intestines. Even as I mentioned, you can maybe try to guess which organs are meant for building the energy and which ones are meant for breaking it down for instant action. Now, two structurally different types of nerves have started branching out at different regions of the entire spinal column. See in this picture, there is just one face, two brains and two spinal columns are given in order to show the difference. The sympathetic nerves meet the ganglion, a small nerve center very close to the spinal column, and has a very long arm before reaching out the specific organ of the body. The parasympathetic nerves on the other side have a very long arm before reaching the ganglion, but thereafter they have a very short distance to cover the target organ. The switch on or switch off command comes down from the limbic brain, which lies right at the center of our head, covered by the cortex. But the initial signals for the switch on, switch off command has to come from the cortex, the outer layer. It is the sympathetic nerves that get activated at the fight or flight condition perceived by the animal in the outside world once the signals reach the cortex. The parasympathetic nerves that goes to the switch off mode at this time get switched off, switched on all over again only when the danger disappears. For this also, it is the sense organs like the eye and the ears of the animal that has to send the relaxation signal to the cortex, which then sends the signals to the limbic brain, and the command comes down to the autonomic nerves. All sympathetic nerves have a very similar structure, and all of them release the same chemical called norepinephrine. This chemical puts the organs of the body into the fight or flight mode. So remember once again, sympathetic nerves are responsible for the fight or flight mode. The heart rate hikes up, the lungs take a hard breath, the sweat glands get into action, glycogen and the fat tissues get split up into easily available glucose. Now the energy that normally goes into the production of digestive enzymes gets stopped immediately. The contraction of the digestive organs, which is called peristalsis, that itself gets stopped. The parasympathetic nerves that initiate the rest or digest mode also have a very similar structure among themselves, and they release a different chemical called acetylcholine. This chemical calms down your heart, the lungs, the sweat glands, it switches on the digestive enzymes, and the process of peristalsis starts all over again. Of course, we are so busy, these are unconscious activities, we don't take note of any of these things. This unconscious swing from one mode to the other, depending on the level of threat perception seen outside, has been termed homeostasis. See how nature has gifted us with this beautiful unconscious switchover key that had carefully evolved not for millions of years but possibly through 3 billion years. The complexity today of course has increased manifold in the case of human beings. Evaluation of threat perception is governed by our much larger frontal lobes of the brain. And yet, passing through many different needs and challenges of the complex modern life, we too undoubtedly swing from the two extremes, the relaxation mode and the hyperactive mode. Homeostasis, the much required swing from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic mode or vice versa, is the most important factor that governs the working of all our inner organs. Homeostasis works fine for people who have very little stress in their life. It's only when we continue to face a lot of stressful situation, either because of an existing disease or an ongoing threat, then homeostasis is thrown out of gear. The sympathetic nerves remain hyperactive for many hours, and any small trigger from the environment or from our own memory is sufficient to introduce certain very adverse chemicals into the blood system. In fact, the overexcited sympathetic nerves start activating a chemical called cortisol, and that gets into the blood system, and that can do a lot of harm to the body. It can aggravate blood pressure, increase sugar levels of the plasma, and can throw the digestive system out of gear. These have been famously known as the lifestyle diseases of the modern technological era in which we live. Now, what the research findings have confirmed about the meditation is just this: a regular practice of the traditional forms of meditation calms down the sympathetic nerves especially. It has been found that traditional meditation is an effective help in restoring homeostasis that gets repeatedly threatened in the stress-filled modern life. It's not that the parasympathetic nerves are to be imagined as the merciful ones and the sympathetic ones as the villains. Certain level of activation of the sympathetic nerves is also extremely important, because some studies have established that the adipose tissue accumulated in the abdomen starts breaking down only when the sympathetic nerves get activated. And finally, the most important point about immune system in the context of COVID-19. It's of course the autonomic nervous system that activates and controls the entire immune system, just like it controls all other involuntary systems like digestion, respiration and cardiovascular activities. The intake of nutritious food is hardly sufficient to keep the immune system alert and active. Meditation is a much required complement and a proactive preventive step to guard ourselves from the attack of COVID-19. Well, all of this is fine, but how this task gets achieved? Where is the real connection? When someone starts focusing on some simple sensation like breathing or the repetition of a mantra, how is it that the autonomic nervous system gets the right message? This is the most important question. And the research findings do not go into this kind of question. They have simply recorded what impact it makes on the autonomic system. They have not raised the question of how it really happens. Well, I will tell you what's really happening is most likely this. When the focus is turned from the normal thinking process and you start attending to simple minute sensations in a rhythmic repetitive manner, a kind of mimicking, acting out is going on. You have not fully gone into rest or sleep, but you are closely mimicking a gradual restful condition. You are acting out as if there is no danger, nothing to be seriously thinking about, nothing to be worried, that you are preparing yourself for a silent resting condition, and the simple sensations help you in that mode. This signal definitely goes down from the cortex to the limbic brain, and it starts instructing the sympathetic nerves to cool down. It switches over the parasympathetic mode meant for rest and digestion. Obviously, therefore, the heart relaxes, the entire vascular system relaxes, the sweat glands take their cue, the digestion and the body building mechanisms start all over again. I am sure you have now a very clear understanding of what really happens in the traditional forms of meditation when you remain focused on very simple sensations. This knowledge, I believe, will motivate you to go into meditation all over again. You can certainly take up any one of the traditional forms of meditation depending on your choice. But as I pointed out at the beginning, there is yet another crucial difficulty that still remains unaddressed. There is no doubt our mind is far more evolved since the time the simple sensations began to appear in the animal world. For us human beings, it's really hard to shut down the alertness of the mind. It's super active, in fact, keeps planning and discovering a new chain link of thought instantly at every moment of life. It gets triggered from all kinds of signals reaching us from around. It would certainly be extremely difficult for us to remain focused on very simple sensations continuously for a long time. To address these difficulties, I will be introducing the new format of meditation. It is called Recapture for Rapture, the R+R meditation. We will take it up in the next videos. To conclude this part, let's now just recapture. All that we have established so far is just this. Even as the meditation practitioner switches off the mind and switches on certain simple sensations, it calms down the sympathetic nerves and activates the parasympathetic mode. Homeostasis, which is under increasing threat, the stress-filled modern life, can be restored by focusing our attention on simple basic sensations. This certainly is the most important physiological benefit of meditation. More especially, meditation can act as a booster to the immune system, something so badly required in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. However, this is an indirect approach in dealing with our most powerfully evolved reasoning and intuitive mind. In contrast to the traditional forms, the recapture for rapture meditation will be a key that comes into your own hands. It's what you do at the conscious plane all by yourself. It will move you into regions which you have never imagined, and I will hand over this key in the successive videos. The detail I have given here, obviously very sketchy. Lots of stunning resources on the autonomic nervous system and its crucial links with the meditation are already available in the internet. You may kindly check them as a background preparation, and that would help you to appreciate the R+R meditation. Of course, I would be extremely happy to get your feedback, comments and questions. Thank you.